Welcome to the Daily Download. I'm Travis Fain, and if you've been to a North Carolina DMV office lately, then you know what we're going to talk about: wait times. It's not like going to the Division of Motor Vehicles is a pleasant experience in the best of times, but boy, it would be nice if you didn't have to wait months for an appointment or drive to another county to get one. I'm joined by 5 on Your Side reporter Keely Arthur today. She's part of our consumer watchdog team here at WRAL, and she's got a two-parter this week looking at DMV wait times. Keely, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you've been tracking this for a while. What's it like right now to go to a DMV office?
You really got to be strategic. There's kind of two ways to get into the office. You either make an appointment or you go the walk-in route. But an appointment, while that's the preferred route that the DMV wants you to take, your appointments are really hard to get right now. We kind of track them. They have them up on their DMV website, and there's maybe a handful of available appointments this month, and then you kind of have to wait until like March. So if you're going in the walk-in route, you have to get there hours before the office opens to get the chance to get in. And not everyone has this experience. Some people get in right away. Some people get an appointment tomorrow, but that's really rare.
Yeah, and a lot of times you're waiting outside. I drive by a DMV office on my way to work, and I'll see people lined up on the sidewalk, which is not necessarily a pleasant experience. What's causing? What's the problem?
Yeah, I wrote that in the story that it looks like, people are trying to wait to get into a cool nightclub, but they're not doing that. They're waiting to get into the DMV. There's a number of different things. I mean, some of it you can blame on the pandemic. There's kind of that backlog. Services were stopped, or people were not comfortable going into the office during the height of the pandemic. So that's created a bottlenecking effect. We have a 33% vacancy rate within the department, which is huge.
That's huge.
Looking to fill 236 positions right now. So there's just fewer workers. And there were some pandemic era policies that were put in place that were taken away and also created another bottlenecking effect.
Yeah, the vacancy rate, and I think that's something I am, when I'm not hosting here, I'm a kind of a legislative reporter. I cover state government, and state government's having a real problem recruiting, retaining employees right now, as are a lot of businesses. But vacancy rates are at least a 10-year high at a bunch of state agencies, hovering around 20% throughout state government. 33%, though, is huge. When you're a customer-facing business. Those jobs, what do those jobs pay at the DMV?
They pay around $42,000. That's kind of the entry level. And that's a hike. It used to be below $40,000 pretty recently. They're also incentivizing people with a $1,500 signing bonus that came into effect a few months ago. But when I did the story, we kind of did this story in November, the vacancy rate was around 33%, and it hasn't changed since January, February now. Yeah,
and winter is not supposed to be, these things are cyclical. A lot of times we see wait times really tick up in the summer. I think the spring is big too.
Yeah, the peak is, I believe, May to kind of that August timeframe.
So I guess I'm wondering, we've talked about it, but like why now / isn't it about to get even worse?
Worse. Why now is, I think the things that they've put in place are still Wayne Goodwin, the commissioner of the DMV, is hopeful that more workers will get on board, but we're seeing shortages everywhere. So there's that issue, and then it's going to get worse. Yes, and one of his remedies that they're trying to do, and they did this last summer, is extend walk-in hours at 7 a.m. at some locations. Offices open at 8 a.m. They want to expand it to half the offices, so 50 offices would have 7 a.m. starting walk-in times. But you need workers to be able to facilitate that, so it remains to be seen.
And you've got a two-parter coming up on this. People can see that on WRAL. Tell us about some of the folks you talked to. I think one person had an 8-hour DMV experience. Tell us a little bit about these individual stories.
Yeah, you can... Viewers will write into us all the time, and they usually write in when they're frustrated about something, right? So you can kind of search through your inbox and type in DMV, and you're going to see a lot of emails from people complaining. One interview we did was with the mother. She is from the Midwest. They moved a few years ago, kind of during the pandemic, and her daughter went to go get her driver's permit. The driving instructor, said to the mom, "Do you have an appointment?" She said, "No, I thought you could just kind of walk in." He was like, no, that's crazy. You have to get an appointment. She could only find an appointment in like 3-4 months out, but that would have meant her daughter would have gotten the license way after turning 18. So they booked the appointment, and then they decided to go the walk-in route to see if they could get the permit ahead of time. They tried 3 different places. Finally, third time's the charm. They had to get there at 6 a.m. The test did not happen until 2:45 p.m.
So I think that's instructive, and we're going to talk kind of at the end of the episode about tips, but I think I'm hearing some of them right there. And number one is plan ahead. Don't expect this to be easy, especially if you've got a teenager. And this is mostly about younger people because you have to take that driving test.
Right, that's correct. You have to take a driving ed course if you're under 18, and then to get your new license. That's one of the biggest wait times we're seeing is for those brand new driver's license.
Yeah, and a lot of things, if you're an adult renewing your license, a lot of it can be done online.
And the DMV will say to you, look, that's on the public. We offer these services online. People are still showing up in person. That is creating more wait times. Please check and see if what you need to get done at the DMV is available to do online. And renewing your license is one of them.
And read closely what documentation you need to bring with you if you need to be there. I got to the front of the line one time and I was like, here's this, this, and this.
And they were like,
they were amazed.
Oh, you had it all. Okay.
They were amazed that I had it all. They were like, people don't do that. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break here. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk about someone who had to drive 50 miles from their house to make an appointment. And that's not that unusual, unfortunately. So stick with us here on the Daily Download. All right, welcome back to the Daily Download. We're with Keely Arthur. She does consumer watchdog stories, part of our 5 on Your Side team here at WRAL, and she focuses this week on DMV wait times. So the pandemic changed a lot of things, and I think we've all been surprised like how long it takes to get back to normal life. I mean, we're still in the pandemic, sort of, but it is not what it used to be. Is this a matter at the DMV of delays from the pandemic, just we haven't caught up, or are there more moving parts to this?
There are more moving parts. I wish it was as simple as the pandemic, because then in theory, hopefully everything would rebound soon-ish, but that's not the case. The commissioner before, Wayne Goodman, had the same goal, which was to reduce wait times. We interviewed a worker, Rodney Baker. He's worked at the DMV for 10 years as an examiner. He said that the wait times and the long lines have always been there. The difference right now is really the fewer workers. He says he's working at the same pace. There's just not as many workers tending to people right now.
Yeah, and I think I read in your story that the actual peak for wait times was, 2018, 2019, somewhere in there?
Yeah, and it's since been pushed back again to get a real ID for air travel and all of that. But that was when people were initially, I think the deadline was October of 2020, and then maybe got pushed back again.
Yeah, and real ID, we should tell people, that's that little star on your driver's license where it says, oh, you've got the new style of ID that the federal government is requiring, but they've delayed the requirement. What is it, 2020? They delayed it significantly.
So
you don't have to have that right now.
Kind of relax. But yeah, in 2018, 2019, the deadline was looming, the initial deadline, and people were waiting to go there. So yeah, everyone feels like it's like record long wait times right now. It's not. Yeah,
and the average wait time, as calculated and then published to us by the DMV, is, I think, 17 minutes, but there's a pretty big but there.
You really got to look at the data. I request a lot of data from the DMV, and you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. They'll tell you that the wait time is 17 minutes, but they're measuring it based off of once you get in through those doors, once you get a ticket. Waiting outside, that takes hours. I mean, we just talked about the mother that waited 8 hours to get in to the DMV itself. So 17 minutes, that's after you make it through the doors and all that.
That's the wait time once you have largely done all the waiting.
Yes.
Yeah. The post-waiting wait time. Tell us about this person who had to drive to another county. I mean, not everybody can drive to another place to deal with a driver's license issue. Not everybody can wait 2, 3, 4 months for an appointment, but that's kind of happening. They basically are telling you to shop around for an appointment.
Yeah, and that's become the new norm. So we interviewed State Senator Vicky Sawyer. She is obviously a lawmaker, and she's on the Department of Transportation Commission. So we wanted to get her insight into all of this, but we also talked to her as a mother. She had a 16-year-old daughter, and they went through the process that all parents are going through right now, and they had to drive really far to get a driver's license. But people, I think, listening to our stories and understanding that this is just the way it works right now, our photojournalist, Richard Atkins, he said he had a really pleasant experience. He booked an appointment, found one in Sanford, drove out, had to kind of take half a day off to do it, but was able to get it done in a few weeks because he chose somewhere in a rural office that wasn't as busy.
All right, so tips, shop around.
Plan ahead. If you want to make an appointment, the calendar doesn't go past 3 months. So it's not like I could make an appointment in April, but look at the appointments, see if you can plan ahead. And then if you need to do a walk-in, sometimes rural locations are better. Sometimes they're not because there's fewer workers there. But if you're going to walk in, get there at like 6 a.m. That's when everyone's getting there. And then you might be seen.
Yeah, and there's some offices that have extended hours, right? They open at 7 a.m., I believe,
and not right now. That was like during the peak season. Okay. But that, Travis, that's coming soon again because we're going to enter peak season. That's spring, summertime. So they want to reopen. They want to do half of the offices opening at 7 a.m. for walk-ins only. So if you show up and you can walk in, get your service done early.
All right, but a reminder, as I said, a lot of these services can be done online. So that maybe if we're making a checklist, number one, make sure you can't do it online. Make sure you got to go there before you go there.
Yeah, and the website lays it out pretty clearly. Then the second piece of advice would book an appointment if you can. Plan ahead and see, okay, I can do this in March. If you can't, walk in, get there really early. And then a fourth piece of advice that we heard from the private driver's ed instructor was to look at the appointments at 1 and 2 in the morning. And there might be some that pop up. And that's how the mother that we interviewed was able to get an appointment for her daughter. She got up in the middle of the night and found one.
You're looking for cancellations as soon as they populate on the website, I suspect there. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, that's pretty good advice, and we'll continue to track it. I mean, it's a manpower issue, and it's a management issue, an efficiency issue. We're going into a state legislative session. I'm sure that lawmakers will be looking at this because this is one of those things that this is where government touches pretty much everyone.
Yes, Senator Sawyer said that this is the welcome mat to the state, and she wants it to be a better welcoming experience.
All right. Thank you, Keely. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the WRAL Daily Download, making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email waiting in your inbox every morning. It's got Triangle news, events, headlines, get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your attention.